Okay, I have two Nikon cameras here. One is my older D5300, and the other one is my newer D5600. Now these cameras are very similar, and they use the same battery type, which is the EL14. Now, the newer Nikon D5600 has a stronger battery detection system that will detect counterfeit or clone batteries that the older Nikon D5300 doesn't have. But there is a way to circumvent this. I'll show you what I mean with this. Basically, this is one of the clone batteries. Okay, it doesn't have a Nikon on it, and it's just a generic battery. But I also have counterfeit batteries, and these are counterfeit batteries. They have the Nikon name on it. They have a Nikon hologram on it, but they were not made by Nikon. And these will not work in the D5600, but will work in my older Nikon D5300, which I'll show. Okay. Taking one of these batteries in my Nikon 5300, I insert it. I turn it on, and it turns on properly. The menus are there. I'll also flip the screen, just turn it off. I also have these older EL14 batteries without the A. These are authentic Nikon batteries as well. The only difference, they have the hologram. These I purchased from Nikon, and the only difference between the EN-EL14 and the EN-EL14A, besides the color, is that the 14 model doesn't have as much power as the 14A. So using these batteries, you'll get less pictures with it. So these batteries here, since they're authentic Nikon batteries, this is my Nikon D5600. It turns on as well. Okay. Flip this over. Turn it back on. See, it turns on. Now, the easiest thing for me to do is, this is one of the counterfeit batteries. Okay. When I say counterfeit, it says it's Nikon, but it's not made by Nikon. I stick it into my Nikon D5600 camera, sorry. And a message immediately pops up that this battery cannot be used. Okay, so I'm just gonna eject this. But if I stick in, this is the authentic Nikon battery, and this is also the authentic one. This one is the EN-EL14, like I mentioned. I stick it in. It's authentic. Turn on the power, and it works. This is also authentic. I stick it in. Turn it on, and it works. And this is counterfeit. Once again, I stick it in, and the message comes up. Okay. Now, to circumvent it, so I can use counterfeit batteries, or I can use this clone battery here. It doesn't say Nikon, it was made by a different manufacturer, but this will not work in the Nikon D5600. Okay. To bypass this, what I use is I use a battery grip, and there's two models of battery grips. This battery grip here is a back-loaded model. stick in the batteries here, and you stick this into your camera. And I have another battery grip here, which is side-loaded, which is what I use this one for. And you side-load it like this. Okay. Because these cameras are very similar, they use the same batteries. The only difference is actually this battery grip here, I purchased it originally for the Nikon D5100, which was my first camera, but I subsequently updated to the 5300, and it still works. The only thing is, because the 5300 is slightly smaller, it doesn't fit entirely, so you'll get some blank spaces here. And this one here, I also purchased for the Nikon D5100, okay? But I've upgraded my Nikon D5100 to the 5300, and then later upgraded to the 5600. So taking this, to insert the battery grip, what you do is, I'm going to use this one, but they're virtually interchangeable. What you have to do is first remove this battery guard, and to do this, you just tilt it at a 45-degree angle, and you just pull it slightly out. Now you have to be careful not to pull it too hard, otherwise you'll break these things holding the clip. Okay. And after I pull it out, these battery grips, they contain space here where you can insert it in so they don't get lost. Okay, just insert this in here. And I use this to insert this into the camera. Now, I'll do the same with my Nikon D5600. I've already removed the battery clip because I didn't want to have to remove it and reinsert it, but it's very similar. I've inserted it right here. Okay. And I showed that without the battery grip, it doesn't work. I'm sticking this here. So take this counterfeit battery, stick it in here. This is my Nikon D5300. It's side-loaded in here. Turn it on, and you see that right now it's working with 2 batteries. It's fully charged. Now the reason why I'm not using the side-loaded one, side-loaded battery grip with my Nikon D5600 is because of the way it detects the counterfeit batteries. Now, if I open up the back and I stick in one of these counterfeit batteries into it, you'll see that it also will give the message stating that the battery cannot be used. Exactly the same as when the battery grip was not there and I inserted the battery directly into the camera. Now, taking the authentic Nikon battery, I'll stick it in, turn on the camera, and you'll see that it powers on. Now what I can do is I can take the counterfeit battery, or I can take the clone battery. It doesn't really make a difference. I'll stick it into this slot here, turn it off, turn it back on. You'll see that it still powers on. Okay, this is the good battery, this is the counterfeit battery. Now I pop up the good battery, and I'm still able to turn it on. Okay, but the moment I remove this battery so that there's no batteries in the system, just remove it, try to stick it back in. It says that this battery cannot be used. And this is regardless of whether I put it in this slot or I put it in this slot. The same message is there. So you need to power on the D5600 with an authentic battery, such as this one here. And once it's powered on by the authentic battery, you can take this clone battery, stick it in here, turn off my camera, remove this, see it works. This is a counterfeit battery, stick it in here. Also works. I can take out this clone battery. Still works. I can turn it off. Stick it back in here. Take this thing off here. Still works. But as I mentioned, the moment I remove this one so that no batteries are in the system and the camera is off, inserting it will give the message, the battery cannot be used. And this is regardless of whether it's in this slot or in this slot, will display the message both times. Now, I also did purchase an AC power cable for this camera, so that just in case I'm at home and I want to do a lot of transfers, it doesn't waste the batteries. This is plugged into the AC, and it's shaped just like the battery on one end. So I just stick it in here, and you notice that it comes on with this plugged in. If I remove this, on, I can power it back on. You'll see that the camera comes on normally. I can take this clone battery, stick it in here, take off the camera, turn it back on. Still powers on. I can turn it off, remove this AC powered, and turn it on, and it still turns on. And the moment I remove this, plug it back in, the same error message comes up. Now, the good thing about the side-loaded battery grip, which I've installed on my older Nikon D5300, is that I can stick in one battery in the battery grip on the side, turn it on, and it will work. Okay, but the problem is I can't use this battery grip in the Nikon D5600 if I want to use two counterfeit or two clone batteries. One of the batteries must remain the original, just because the moment I remove it to try to swap the batteries, there's no batteries powering on the camera itself, and this will not work on the D5600. So sticking this in here, there's two batteries. I'll stick this in, turn on, and you notice it powers on. And one other thing about this is the side-loaded one also accepts standard AA batteries. These are standard AA batteries. I use rechargeables, but they're standard. It uses 6 of them. And in case I run out of power, it's very difficult to try to find the store that carries the Nikon batteries, EN EL14 or 14A. You can easily find a store that carries AA batteries or AA rechargeable batteries. Side loaded in. Turn it on, and you notice the camera powers on like normal. And if you look close to the side here, you'll notice, as I mentioned, I purchased these battery grips for my Nikon D5100, but it does work in the 5300. It's just, you'll notice it's not flush because the 5300 is smaller than the 5100, so there's some space there. But I don't really care about the space, so it doesn't really bother me. And the same can be said for this camera right here. You'll notice on the side here that there is some space. It isn't flush against the side because the 5600 is smaller than the 5100 that I originally purchased this battery grip for.